everyone, welcome back to episode 2 or part 2 of our Q&A session. I was thinking earlier this morning we could just do like a Christmas Q&A and do like an annual thing. Would that be fun? I don't know. It was just kind of an idea that went through my head. I want to add, we have the dog in studio with us right now because if I don't have her in the room, she sits outside the door and growls, but if I bring her in the room, she also sits inside and growls, so hopefully she's not being a distraction. But if you hear her growling, that's why. She thinks we should be playing right now instead of talking.
She's really...
We're not rubbing your belly right now.
Okay, she's gonna be
go ahead.
though.
My daughter Camille is still here with me, asking me some more of the questions that you all submitted. So let's take it away.
Regarding your journaling and crafting, what brought you to junk journaling?
What brought me to junk journaling? Well, I think it was kind of a natural progression as I was getting back into scrapbooks, and then found all these fascinating videos on mini albums and all the flips and flaps and how interactive they are. They're so structured though. They're very detailed and you have to be so precise. So as I was watching a lot of these videos on YouTube about making mini albums, then suggestions for making journals started to pop up. And then one day I actually watched one, and I was kind of fascinated by the concept of it's like a mini album, but it has more uses than just for photographs. You can journal in it, you can make it a scrapbook, you can do all these things. And then the idea of recycling and reusing and repurposing so that you're not throwing things out. So I tend to go more towards the junk journal kind of style, which is just more eclectic and more things that you find, or papers, books. But journals in general, I think, are just fun to make. So that's kind of how that went. It was really YouTube led me down this path, but that's how I transitioned over from doing journals instead of mini albums. And I found it very freeing because I tend to be a little bit of a perfectionist. And in junk journals or journal making, you don't have to be so precise. You can kind of go with where your creative ideas are taking you. And then also incorporated a little bit of the sewing that I already knew how to do, as well as the paper crafting. And you get to play with stickers and paper and glue and scissors. It's all very fun. So yeah, that's how I wound up with journals.
Do you have a favorite type of journal that you like to make?
Ooh, yes. My favorite type of journal, honestly, are the ring binder kind. Making them from old cookbooks, or really any kind of those ring binder styles. I like that you can add or subtract pages. I don't know, if I could just do ring binder journals, I would, but I think you all would get bored. My second favorite kind are using up scraps. So I tend to use the little book rings, you know, that open and shut, and use up my little scraps that way. And then there's just so many styles of journals though, so and so many kinds of journals you can make. So my next one I want to try to do at some point during the upcoming year are like glue books, or the ones that are just very this and that, kind of a little bit of everything, and bigger size journals. I don't know, I have so many plans. But I would say hands down my favorite are the ring binder ones, but honestly I enjoy doing all of them because you can shake it up so much as you create each one and make each one your own.
How long have you been making journals?
So officially making journals since about 2018. That's those earliest videos that I made. I aired in July of 2018, so I guess maybe I started even a little bit before that in 2017. Yeah, I think that's about when I really started. End of 2017, beginning of 2018, because that's when I really remember starting to watch a couple, there were 2 or 3 different YouTube channels I was really watching that were specifically about journals. So,
although you did a couple before that, because you made my Disney one in 2016.
Yes, I did make the Disney one, and it was more of a scrappy, it was the autograph book.
Yes, I love it.
And I was doing the scrappy with using the book rings so that you could open and close and add pages for the autographs. But yeah, I was experimenting because I also made a couple of baby books for people that were gifts, and they were all kind of just that scrappy leftover pieces of this and that, but smaller, and all with the book rings, and then tying ribbons and things around the book rings to make them pretty. So yeah, I was experimenting in 2017 and committing in 2018, I guess.
Do you do DIYs as well as paper crafting?
I do not on this channel, and I am going to refer you back to my very first video. If you want to go back and watch my very first video where I introduced myself in the channel. And the reason for that is because I stink at teaching. I learned long ago that is not my skill set, so we try to stay away from that. That being said, I do have one on this channel that's kind of a DIY, which was from last summer, and I redid my table that I work on. And it's just a little bit of like a process of how I refinish the table. It's nothing fancy. To piggyback off of that, for my other channel that I still have going in the back of my mind, I have a couple of little projects where I want to refinish some end tables and nightstands and things like that. So those would come under the idea of DIY, but they'll be on the other channel. I don't know that I would actually do that on this one, because this one I've reserved mostly for the paper crafting. That was a long rambly answer. So DIY is not so much on this channel, but they will be coming on the other channel.
Questions regarding your faith. What is your favorite Bible verse and why?
My favorite Bible verse, well, okay, my very favoriteest Bible verse is in Joshua at the end, where God says, it says,
oh no.
This is truly my favorite one. I don't know why, because now Joshua was old and advanced in years, and the Lord said, Joshua, you are old and advanced in years. But anyway, that's probably my favorite one because it's just comical. But my more serious favorite Bible verse comes from the book of Ecclesiastes, and it's Ecclesiastes 9:17, I think. But whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. That is my favorite Bible verse because it tells you to go forward with gusto and to really do well at what you're working at, and to just put your whole heart and soul into it.
Have you ever served in the church? And if so, were you in a choir?
I have served in the church, lots of capacities. Even when I was in, I think my very first official role in church, I was in college, and the church we were attending at the time was kind of small, and they didn't have anyone to run the ladies' retreat. And so I personally organized it as kind of the one-woman show because nobody else would do it. And it turned out really nice. So that was, I guess, an official service capacity. It wasn't hard because we were going to a small church. So we were talking maybe 30 women. But I put all that together more officially after that. Once I started having kids, we helped with the nursery and helped in Sunday school class and helped with Awana. For a long time we were in Awana, I think 6 years. As part of that, I was a children's leader, kind of helping out, and then I became the secretary for our particular Awana club at that church that we were at. We have been in choirs, me and my husband, but I have been in choirs. And also earlier than formal church ministry, because I went to a Bible college, student ministry was an aspect of college life that they emphasized. And so you had to have a student ministry as part of your credit. And I did several things, but I was also in choir because of college. So we traveled and we sang, and then I was in a small group ensemble on Sundays. So my freshman year, every Sunday afternoon, once we went to church, then we came back, had lunch, and then I had about an hour to rest, and then it was time to go pack up all the equipment, drive to somewhere in Oregon, set it up, rehearse, give the actual concert, tear it down, drive home. So that was a lot. So I should have stayed in the ensemble probably for all 3 years that I was at college, but I only did the one because I was so exhausted. Sundays were exhausting, and I needed to rest. That was the only day that we had free, really, in the schedule. So then senior year, I was on the Women's Ministries Leadership Board for the women on campus, and that was fun. And now I can't remember my exact role. think I was publicity, which is weird because I'm not that good at it. So, but lots of ways that we've served. Yes, definitely in choir, because I've been in choirs my whole life. I've been singing my whole life since I was a little kid. And first choir, I think I have a vivid memory of this, but I think I was 4 years old and it was a Christmas pageant. And I remember we had to go in the evening, and I remember them herding us all in this line like we're little kids, and the adults aren't telling us what's going on, but they plunked a pair of like animal ears on my head, you know, and then they said, here, go up here and stand up there and we're going to sing a song. And so we sang a couple songs like Away in a Manger and whatever. It was a Christmas pageant. But I remember looking out into the audience, and I just thought it was the most exciting thing ever to just be up on that stage and looking out into the dark and singing to people. So I've always been in choirs, whether they were Christian or church related or not. So.
Mom is a really beautiful singer, and she played Mary in a pageant one time,
yes.
where she sang Breath of Heaven, that they still have the family recording of, and I love listening to that.
Yeah, I did that 2 different Christmases because you were a baby. You were
I
a
was
baby.
Jesus.
You were. You were baby Jesus. I was really feeling the Mary role with the brand new baby.
Jesus,
no, and you're a girl, so that's like all wrong. But you were a little baby, and you were stinking cute. But anyway, yeah, I did that a couple of years ago.
You mentioned briefly that you led a Sunday school class for a time. Do you have any tips in leading a Sunday school class at church?
Oh gosh. Okay, so I actually, that's one I forgot to mention in my student ministry days. I did actually lead a Sunday school class one summer here when I was in college for our kids at church, and I had these kids are delightful. They're all like almost 40 now, but they were, how old were they? They were 7 or 8. There were only 3 of them, and I stink at teaching. That's how I learned that I do not want to teach. So unfortunately, I am not the best one to get tips about teaching from, because that whole experience taught me that I can't, and I'm not good at it, and I don't like it. I also studied education for a year in college. After I came back from Multnomah, I went to NNC, which is Northwest Nazarene College at that time. Now it's a university, and thought I would study elementary ed and learn through that 1 year that I'm not good at it. My biggest tip would be prepared, and don't do it unless you really love it. And then find the age group that you most enjoy teaching, because that's where you are going to excel, and your love of teaching those kids and the subject is going to come through. So that would be my biggest tip for you. And if you don't like teaching, golly, just don't do it. Find somewhere else that you can serve that you like, because while there's a lot of ways that you can serve people in life and in church, that doesn't mean that you should. You should pick the one that best fits you and your skills and your interests, because personally, I don't think God called us to be miserable when we serve in church. I think he called us to be joyful and to serve in those capacities. And so I think, yeah, just pick what you like doing and serve there.
Can you share some tips for a good, positive, Christ-like Christian marriage?
These are big questions, and Reddit, I know it was you that asked these questions, so I'm not going to hold it against you, but one of the biggest things, I guess, I think my kids honestly are better at having Christian marriages than I am, because in today's day and age and younger culture, I think being open is a little more valued, and I think both sides are more willing to be that way, and I think that is a huge benefit in Christian marriage, to be open without feeling threatened and to feel safe in that relationship. And I did not grow up personally in a house that had family devotion time, or neither did my husband. So we have not brought this like corporate quiet time together into our marriage, but I do believe it's important as an individual and as a Christian. I think that holding your faith as your priority and holding your marriage as your priority, and realizing that your marriage symbolizes the union of Christ with his church, with his people, and that closeness, as well as it's supposed to be a reflection of how the Godhead operates within the Godhead. Unity, closeness, love, harmony. So I think holding those as values in your own marriage as a Christian are important, because that is the purpose of marriage, is to show God's love for us, and by that we show our love for each other.
Regarding your life and family, what did you study in college?
What did I study in college? Well, there you go. I've kind of alluded to it, I think, already, but I went to a Christian college first. Part of that is because from the time I was 9 years old, the church that I attended at the time had a youth choir, and our youth pastor had gone to Multnomah, which it was at that time, it was called Multnomah School of the Bible. It was based in Portland, and it's always been Bible emphasis only college. So a lot of those youth would go to Multnomah and come back at Christmas and give testimonies about their college experience, what they were learning, how they were growing, and then we would be hearing the youth choir sing. And I vividly remember sitting in the congregation one Sunday evening listening to the choir sing, and as they were sharing about their experience at Multnomah, I was like, I'm going to go there. I just know I am. I'm going to go there. And so I never considered anywhere else. Actually, I just knew I was going to Multnomah when I graduated. So after I graduated high school, it was still Multnomah School of the Bible, and was not really accredited. And I went there with the goal of going 1 year to understand what I believed and why I believed it, and do I still want to believe that. So when you grow up in the church and you hear stories from scripture, or you're getting that teaching, and remember, I went to Christian school, and I went to church on Sundays, and I went to youth group or wherever on Wednesday nights. I went to camp whenever they had camp, so that was 3 to 4 times a year. All those things, all the functions. And I thought, why do I believe this? You just grow up hearing it, but not understanding how it all fits together. So that was my main reason for going to Multnomah. After I got there for the first year, I decided I wanted to stay all 3. So remember, it wasn't accredited, so you went 3 years and got an associate's degree, and then you could go elsewhere, get your general education, your gen eds, and transfer those credits back and have a bachelor. So I kind of was heading down that idea. So I went ahead, went all 3 years, graduated, and then I thought, well, I'm going to go, I came home and I was going to go to a local college here called Northwest Nazarene College, and I thought I would study education. That was the year that I learned that I don't want to be a teacher, and that I stink at it, and I did not enjoy it. So kind of a waste of a year, but in some ways not, because I could have been going down a whole career path that I would have not enjoyed over time. So went there for a year, and then didn't know what I wanted to do, but I did know what I didn't want to do. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go to BSU, Boise State University, and I will get my gen eds and transfer them back to Multnomah, and then I'll just have a bachelor's in Bible and theology. So I had taken a semester off to just work, and I also learned that I kind of enjoyed the bookkeeping aspect. I was an assistant manager at a pizza restaurant, and I kind of enjoyed doing the books and stuff. I didn't really enjoy managing the people, but I enjoyed managing the books. And so I thought I would study accounting too. So I went to Boise State for 2 semesters with the goal of getting my bachelor's back through Multnomah, transferring those credits, but also learning some accounting and maybe going that direction. And I ran into a scheduling conflict with the program. I needed a history class, and it was going to be 3 years before they offered it again on the schedule. It was ancient Greece. And at that point, I'd met my husband. I was working at a credit union. I wanted to move on with my life, and so I gave up on getting the bachelor's. But I do have an associate's in Bible and theology from Multnomah, and a whole lot of other credits that equal nothing but a lot of life experience.
When you were working, what was your occupation?
When I was working, so after college then, or during that college time, I started working at a credit union as a teller, and I really enjoyed banking. And then I transferred over to a big name bank in the area that no longer exists, but it was a regional banking operation. And through that, I became all the names have changed. So at first I was secretary 1, secretary 2, assistant secretary. Now it's office manager or administrative assistant. But that's essentially what I was. I was the administrative assistant for a man who managed 6 departments. And I enjoyed that. Then we found out we were expecting our first child, and I really wanted to just be home with her. As it was, just financially and everything, the way it worked out, I had to still work till she was about 9 months old. Then I had 9 years off, and then when I went back to the workforce, I started with doing some testing for the school district. By then my oldest was in elementary school, and I was volunteering in her classroom. And through that, found out about a job opportunity in the office. So I became the receptionist and basically the backup person for the head secretary of the school. And then I went on to, I worked there for 5 years while my kids were in elementary. And then my youngest went to middle school. I transitioned full-time and went to a different school and became the head secretary at that school. So it's always been a more office-y, organizational, managing, work a little bit with money, that kind of thing, some bookkeeping, those kinds of things. But that was more by accident than design, I guess. But that's actually, through that I figured out I'm actually kind of decent at that. So that's kind of my career path.
What are some of your tips, tricks for staying organized for those who are not naturally gifted in that area?
Yes, staying organized. I did go to a couple of classes actually on time management and organization. Some of the things I've learned that along the way, and I've learned these from other secretaries in the building or what have you, or through the courses. First tip, when you pick up a piece of paper and you have a job to do with it, like it needs to be filed or whatever, you use the Ohio rule, only handle it once. And so the first letters of those words, O-H-I-O, say Ohio, only handle it once. Be efficient with that piece of paper. And I can't work in a mess, so I tend to try to keep things tidied up after each project. That's one of the things I do. Personally, in my personal life, I stink at filing. I'm always saving that till last. But definitely having some kind of filing system, whether it's all electronic or whether you like to handle paper, however, pick up what you have and each day sort through your mail when you bring it in and toss it aside, the junk, and recycle that, and then handle the paper that's in front of you. And then also organizationally, I just tend to keep things in binders. So like my recipes are in binders and my bills are in files. In my craft room, when I'm crafting, I kind of have sections, and I think you see that in my intro video a little bit, where I scan the empty craft room and then I scan the full craft room in color. You see that I've got my cubbies, and each one kind of has a section and a point to it, and then I have my stamps in one area, and I have them labeled so I can remember. And I have my papers in another area. When I'm working on my table, I'm going to grab something here, hold on. When I'm working on my table now, I have started incorporating the concept of bins. So this one I found, I like this because this is a big bin, and then it has the smaller bins inside to divide it out. So these lift out. And I just have little sections on my table where I set each thing, and then the big tray is for the papers. And then along the way, I found these at Target off and on, or sometimes the Dollar Tree has some nice looking ones. This one, I think I found it either Marshall's or TJ Maxx or somewhere, because it came as a whole set. So that's how I work organizationally on my table, because I can't create and focus when there's a mess going on. So that's one of the things I do. And then I clean up after every project and start fresh, so my brain is fresh. Because it's just, if there's too much everywhere else, I just can't focus. And I'm like that in my house too. If the dishes aren't done, I can't focus on, sitting down, something that has to use my mind if there's messy around me. So I guess that's one of the ways I organize. And then I have my ideas for journals. If I have a lot of them, I have organized into how do I organize them? I have different ways. Some are in drawers, but mostly in the big, like 2-gallon Ziploc bags that you can get from Walmart. I put all of the ingredients for each idea that I have. I just kind of tuck it into a bag, and then out my garage, I have a couple of big old metal filing cabinets from my husband's last job, and they are out there with the books in them and different things organized by category. I label everything because my favorite tool is probably the label maker. But that goes along with my paper crafting obsession. I think we asked that question in the last video, but I've always had this real big love of office supplies, school supplies, stationery. So anything that's related to office supplies, I just get really crazy giddy excited about it. So my label maker is one of my biggest tools, and I label everything because there's no way that anybody can remember just in their brain where everything goes. So, yeah. So in terms of my personal life and organizing the home, I could certainly address that on my other channel when that gets up and going. That's kind of one of the thoughts in the back of my mind.
How scared were you to start making crafting videos?
Very scared. Super scared. It was terrifying. It really is, because you watch everyone on camera and they're so fluent, and I feel like I ramble. I really feel like I ramble, so I require a lot of editing. For me personally, I cannot just get on here, talk, go from point A to point Z, and have it all lined up beautifully. So I was very scared. I was very scared about my words, but I also think it's been very good for me because it makes me clarify my thoughts, makes me stick to the point, state my objective. I become conscious of how I am on camera, how many times I say sniffling, clicking my tongue, all the annoying things that you do without realizing that you do it. Hopefully it's made me more fluent when I speak and a little more comfortable speaking to people. I was always in choir, but I was also in drama, and to some degree always in front of people on stage, so that element didn't scare me as much. I think it's weirder sitting in a room talking to yourself, you know, with a camera and nobody else around. That seems more intimidating to me because I'm just talking to the air. So I was definitely scared, and Camille said you should do it, and so after 2 years I finally did.
Has your YouTube channel brought you closer to others?
Did you reach down and rub her belly before I answer that? Yes, I would say it has brought me closer to others, closer to people that have the same passion and that are in this community. Outside of this community, I think I talked about it in the last video, not very many people in my personal life make journals or that kind of thing. I've been blessed because I have a couple of friends locally that watch these videos even though they don't make journals at all, so thank you. You two know who you are. And then I have another friend that I found through this. Turned out that she and I had been attending the same church for a long time, and she does make journals, and she also watches my channel, so I have one friend locally that makes journals. This is exciting, but it's also brought me closer to other people in the YouTube community, and I think that really hit home for me when I hosted my first giveaway and 5 people responded. So those were some of my initial 50 subscribers came out of that giveaway, and I still connect with you guys. You guys still leave comments, and I watch the videos for those of you who make them. And yeah, and then it's brought a few more people to me who also consistently watch my channel. I would love to have unlimited funds and travel to meet all my new YouTube buddies. So hopefully maybe someday I can do that. There are a lot of great people in this community to meet and a lot of this great country to see, and I love to travel, so I think that'd be fun to combine all of that. So we'll just see where life leads us, and yeah, until then we just connect in the comments and those kinds of things.
How do you envision your channel and your crafts evolving in the future?
Okay, yes, I remember this question, and there was an aspect of technology maybe, and I remember you had mentioned the Oculus, so I went and looked up what an Oculus is. For me personally, I am I'm not a big gamer, and I'm not into reality TV or even virtual reality. I'm not into those kinds of gamey things like that. So I don't know that personally I would institute virtual reality into my crafting. YouTube, as far as recording and editing and uploading, that's pretty techy for me. And I don't see that changing much, because I can have the discussion, or I can show you and I can video what I'm doing, and then you guys can respond, but you also have the luxury of watching it on your own time, so it's not necessarily in real time. I don't know that virtual reality adds much of adds anything to the crafting process, because it's not in real time. It would just be, I guess, more 3D effects. So I'm not sure how that would work.
I think something you could do would be to do a group Zoom call where you just basically, like a scrapbooking get together, but you could all Zoom and just craft together, and you don't have to be leading anything. You just start hanging out, chatting, crafting together.
Yeah.
You could host like junk journal nights where you all just Zoom in. It could be like getting together, crafting together in person, except that your subscribers are spread out, so everybody could Zoom in.
All Zoom in.
They could show their face if they want. They don't have to show their face,
show
but
little
it would be cute to just have it as if you were in person crafting together.
I like that idea.
But you don't have to do anything formal. It's just hanging out. It's just talking, hanging out, having a cup of coffee, and crafting together. So piggybacking
off of her comment, I used to be part of a scrapbooking group through my church, and we met once a month, so sometimes we would host those at my house. And yeah, that would be like having scrapbook night or craft night. Wow, you guys wouldn't have to cart all your stuff. You'd be in your room. You'd have all your favorite things with you, and so would I. I enjoyed doing those, but part of my challenge was I was always so busy finding things for everybody else. I never actually sat down and crafted when it was at my house. But I did like the consistency, because it would, once a month I had that to look forward to, and I would always, I would piggyback off that and go for like another 3 or 4 days and keep working on scrapbooks or making cards, wherever. And I haven't had that, well, since, when did we break up? 2004. So I think a Zoom call or something like that would be really cool, because then I could hear the comments and I could respond to them verbally without having to read the screen. Yeah, so boy, there's lots of good thoughts here, and my daughter's feeding me lots of good suggestions that I just edited out for you. But comment below if you like that idea of maybe doing a Zoom craft session together, and then we can all hear each other. You don't have to show your faces. You could just show your hands or your desk. I can hear you talk, and then I can respond. And then yeah, if there's a day of the week that would work better, and then we could do them like quarterly or something, and then we could schedule it for a couple hours once a quarter, and we could all get together and Zoom craft together. We'll have to come up with a catchy name. You got a catchy name? Put that down below too, because that would be really good. Ooh, I like this idea. This is a good question. So yeah, I'm not in the virtual reality piece of that, but I could definitely do the Zoom piece of that. Yeah, she's got a good idea. She's a smart kid, and some of those brain cells came from me, but most of them, I don't know. She got them from some outside source. Okay, I think that wraps up all of our questions for the day. Thanks for sticking with me. I think this video went a little bit longer than last time, so those are all very good questions, and I will let you know next time I'm ready to collect questions again, because this was actually very fun. It made me dig deep and made me really think about some of these things before I answered them, and is a better way, I think, to connect on screen. You guys learn a little bit about me, and I learn a little bit about you through the questions that you ask. So thanks everyone for joining me last week and again this week. Have a lovely Christmas day. And until next time, I want you to be inspired and do something creative today. All right, talk to you next time. Bye-bye. Sorry, that was a very involved answer.